Neocons are now freaking out that China is only growing their influence after Donald Trump dismantled USAID. China filling the void for USAID is a giant win for humanity. China aid programs benefit both countries, while USAID was just a slush fund for the Pentagon. Even comparing what China does to USAID is an insult to China. China didn't pay activists full-time in order to promote regime change. China doesn't spend a large percent of their aid paying propaganda to spread pro-China and anti-American propaganda. Anti-China propagandists all over the world are freaking out because it was funded by USAID and now they are being shut down. The United States spend their time propagandizing the world while China builds. Do you guys know USAID set up fake aid clinics in Africa and use that as a front to fund terrorism and regime change activists in Africa? In fact, USAID has been caught funding terrorist groups like Boko Haram. The United States funds terrorist cells all over Africa while China builds. Donald Trump just united China, Japan, and South Korea as they come together to issue a joint response to Trump's tariffs. The three East Asian manufacturing giants even agreed to strengthen their trade ties as a way to respond to Donald Trump. Japan and South Korea plans on importing semiconductor raw materials from China, and China is interested in buying chips made in Japan and South Korea. This is a historic moment in East Asia as Donald Trump's unhinged policies are only making China stronger. Xi Jinping is absolutely running circles around Donald Trump on the world stage. This is following the global trend of countries wanting to do business with China over the United States due to the United States' unhinged policy. South Korea and Japan has long been United States vassals. For them to start to turn on them is huge. Japan is particularly pathetic, siding with the United States over China for decades, despite the fact it was the United States who dropped the nuke on them, and the fact that Japan committed gross war crimes against China. The fact that Donald Trump is uniting these two countries is crazy, especially considering that China has no reason to forgive Japan after the atrocities that they committed against the Chinese. But Xi Jinping is playing 5D chess, and he's easily taking advantage of all the boneheaded mistakes that Donald Trump and MAGA is making right now. Donald Trump just turned the entirety of the EU against the United States. He pissed off Canada and Mexico, who are also looking at other trade partners. And he now united China, Japan, and South Korea. MAGA is trying to take America on the world stage worse than Joe Biden did.
What's poppin'? My friends, my family, guess who's back? Welcome back. RBN Live, Nick at noon, Nick at any time. What's poppin', my friends? Great to be back. And I am back on our 4th anniversary. So it's good to be here, releasing bang after banger. What's poppin', my friends? It's great to see you guys. So much to cover. It was so hard to not go live for 2 weeks, but I needed to take some time to live a little bit. You know what I mean? I've been obsessed with politics and organizing ever since I quit my job and started organizing in the Bernie campaign 5 years ago. So excuse me if I had to take some time to myself to make sure I'm still sane. The big thing is I was getting back into my martial arts. It's been something that has been a big part of my life. I want to get my black belt. I started training. You know, I got some good news, my man. I'm 30. I'm 30 years old, but your boy is still a badass, man. I'm still fast. You know what I mean? I was sparring. I have my famous jab photo, and I feel so good. I feel so good. Let me pull it up. This is pretty much what I was doing to these little kids. I was sparring with these people. It didn't feel really fair because I've been doing Muay Thai for like 12 years. But this is what I felt like the whole time. So this is what I was doing for like last 2 weeks getting back to my roots. So it's good to be back in politics though. But make sure you guys take care of yourself because the news I talk about is extremely depressing. Like the Nanjing massacre, for example. And I have amazing guests, a great geopolitics analyst, educator, Alon Mizrahi is joining us here very soon. I will introduce you, my brother. Um, what happened between this trade agreement, this agreement that China, Japan, and South Korea are making is historic. Oh yeah, let me know how the mic. I just got a new mic, so I actually need to make sure I look at the chat. I have a new mic and a new camera. I'm testing out for the first time right now. But this is historic. Donald Trump's unhinged foreign policy has the EU now fleeing away from the United States. Now you have China, Japan, and South Korea. And I've been having a lot of fun on Red Note, Jang Jo-Hu, right? And they talk about the war crimes that Japan committed against China all the time. Like I see these Red Note posts where they say, "Hey, Americans, do you guys have any idea what Japan has done to us during World War II? The war crimes that the ruling class party in Japan still doesn't apologize for. That is what Shinzo Abe was famous for. Now apologizing for the massacres that Japan committed. But despite this, you have China, you have Japan. And this is what pisses me off, and this is why I don't even feel bad about like Denmark and all these people. I won't bring my guests in here on this thought. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready, Alon. Japan and South Korea are essentially vassals to the United States, and Japan has been fear mongering for years about how China is a threat to their national security. And the same with Denmark. Denmark has been fear mongering about Russia and China forever. Now you have the United States trying to annex their territory in Greenland, and now they are worried about what's going on. Oh my God, I can't believe America betrayed us. This is what you did. This is Japan. You decided you sided with the people who nuked you, fam. And I'm not condemning like the Japanese people, because if you talk to a lot of young Japanese working class people, they hated Shinzo Abe. They hated that the ruling class refused to apologize for war crimes. So this is not shade on the Japanese, but the Japanese got some fucking boomers, man. The Japanese boomers is bad as ours. They wish they still had Imperial Japan back. They sided with America and hated China, hated the DPRK. What did they do to them? All right, I'm sorry to go on the rant. Let me bring my guests in because I have a lot to say on this. We got a lot of geopolitics to talk about. I have my great friend and amazing commentator. I love your post on X. I saw you start a YouTube channel as well. I'm not getting this wrong, but I think it's Alon Mizrahi. Am I getting that correct?
The Mizrahi perspective, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you on, man.
Great to be with you.
It's great to hear your perspective. So welcome to RBN once again.
Yeah, I'm happy to be with you and with your audience, and it's one of the very few political spaces in even alternative American media. I mean, it's nuts what's going on.
Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts about, especially how the Trump administration. The title of my video is how he's a crazy warmonger. He's bombing Yemen as we speak. We're gonna get to all that here soon, but I want to hear your thoughts on this because this is historic. The alliance between China, Japan, South Korea, and I was. This was my post. I was joking how I didn't really care about Greenland because Greenland supported the United States. And this same with Canada. Canada, like, oh my God, the United States is threatening our sovereignty. You guys been gave up your sovereignty. They've been puppets of the United States. Canada, Denmark, they helped the United States destabilize Syria. They helped the United States invade Iraq. And now, after aligning with the empire, they now want to turn around shocked, like, oh my God, I can't believe how evil America is. So, Alon, I want your thoughts about Trump getting people in the EU, getting people in Canada. Japan is looking at China now. China is increasing their influence. What are your thoughts on the early few weeks of the Trump administration?
I think that the whole thing basically is coming apart. The big, huge deception that is America, that is the USA. I mean, this whole facade of a country with democracy and values. I mean, we were told and we were indoctrinated to think that there was some empire and there was some insane capitalism, but mainly it was a normal country. And not now what we're seeing, it is mainly empire and the insane capitalism and a little bit of normalcy. But now this is gone. I mean, the little bit of normalcy is getting people are getting rid of it. This government is getting rid of it, and they are all arrangements, the geopolitical arrangements that relied on American power, American stances, American needs, basically. They're starting to come apart. And this whole system, I mean, every region of the world that you look, I mean, this is the Far East. I mean,
Yeah.
Japan and Korea are at war with their neighbor, which is China. And European countries are basically at war, at economic war with Russia, which is their neighbor, and the biggest supplier of energy for the continent. And this is how the U.S. managed to create divisions and remain the dominant power because it blocked everyone's way. It does the same thing in the Arab world. It supported Wahhabis, and you have Shias versus Sunnis.
Yeah.
This is the American way of remaining a hegemonic power. But everyone who used to rely on American power are now seeing they're feeling blank. There's
Yeah.
nothing there. They can't rely on it.
Yeah.
Ukraine can't rely on the US. I mean, now the US is seeking to exploit Ukraine. We were on the supposedly US, we were on your side defending democracy, and
Yeah.
now give us your minerals. This is like a mafia. This is not a country. I paid you money. Now give me everything that you have.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
so. But I think what humanity is witnessing, because I don't want to stay in a Western. I mean, the Western gaze, the Western look. We need to get rid of it. Not the American gaze and not the Western gaze. Humanity is seeing the political arrangements that allow the U.S. to dominate coming apart. And they can see that the US itself is not stable and not reliable. I mean, now Trump doesn't like this country and he does like that country. I mean, Australia has problems with the US too, with the submarines, each and every country in this alliance. But what happens in 2 3 years when the tastes in the US change? Say the Democrats go back into power. So now what? Now we're supporting Ukraine again. We are for peace. We are for
Yeah.
it. I mean, who can anticipate and plan ahead with this such a madhouse?
Yeah.
So
That's why Putin, he said this famously, that he preferred Biden over Trump because Trump is very unpredictable. The narrative in Washington that Trump is some sort of puppet to Russia was never been true. He was extremely harsh on Russia. He won that armed the Ukrainian rebels to begin with. But when you look at his actions in Syria, when you look at the fact that I still believe he's on the path of taking this peace deal where he was attacking Putin. But this is something else I find interesting is how Trump is the person that the right wing fear mongered about forever. Like he's a old school globalist. Like the whole idea. And one of my friends sent me this. This is like the classic conspiracy theorists on the right that they will describe this globalist takeover of the world, and they described how the globalists wanted to establish a North American Union where the United States takes Canada as the 51st state, and then they take Greenland. And Donald Trump is following the quote unquote globalist playbook to the T. So isn't it funny that MAGA and people on the right, they've been cheering for a globalist this entire time?
Yeah,
I
but
Go ahead.
yeah, at the same time, you could see Democrats who were, priding themselves on being for human rights and democracy and yada yada, supporting genocide. I mean, no
Yeah.
one in US politics mean what they say. It is white supremacy, it is money speaks, and that's it. That's all. All the rest is just facade. It means nothing. I don't give relate any meaning or significance to anyone in American politics. Say it's just performance. They mean nothing.
Yeah. Speaking of performance, just to make your point, Cory Booker is like number 4 on Twitter right now, trending. He's been speaking on the Senate floor about how he's gonna resist Donald Trump. I'm Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. He's a threat to the rule of law. That meanwhile, Cory Booker is meeting with convicted war criminals as he's saying that Donald Trump is a threat to the rule of law. The same senators that say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to the rule of law are the same people that are waging war against the International Court of Justice, that they are cheering on Donald Trump as he's bombing another country. And I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Because you have this ridiculous signal gate that the media are trying their best to get Americans to give a fuck about. like like I saw like this clip, it was bullshit. This Democrat soccer mom, she was like, "Oh my god, I demand that Pete Hegseth resign because he leaked national." Who gives a fuck? No one's actually no actual working class American. I don't give a fuck. I draw the line here. No American actually gives a fuck about Signalgate. And what's crazy is that Democrats turned Signalgate, and they have no problems with the fact that the Trump administration bombed children. There were 5 Yemeni children who died after Trump's
And
bombing. They're like, "Oh no, we cool with the operation. We just mad because he spread national security secrets." So he's Donald Trump, the warmonger, and I'm gonna get your thoughts on this, Alon. Donald Trump, the warmonger, is bombing Yemen the same as Joe Biden. So great choice that we have here. Instead of simply stopping the genocide in Yemen, and not Yemen, but in Gaza, because the reason why Nasrallah is doing this is because Israel violated the ceasefire that Donald Trump and Israel set up to fail. Which is why I didn't want to rain on the parade of people in Gaza, but I warned you guys on RB, and remember the people that called me Debbie Downer? Well, I was like, hey man, I'm happy for the people of Gaza they get some relief, but this ceasefire is bullshit. So I will speak more on this because this is why Nasrallah is doing this, because Israel continues their genocide against the Palestinian people, right?
if we can look back a little bit, if we realize this is like a unique moment in history, and it is, this is
Sure.
not like everyday politics. So if we can see that the human rights and democracy facade was a lie, the anti-war, the Republican anti-war supposedly is a lie, and all the rest of it. I mean, where is the social commitment of Democrats? I mean, what have they done socially for poor Americans, for Black people, for weaker communities? What have they done socially? Again, nothing. So if we can see that everything that was declared really doesn't have any meaning, we can take it seriously, and nothing, no one follows through. What does remain? What does remain? What remains constant? What do people always keep up? And this is Zionism. This is the one constant. Zionism, war, and big money and all that, but Zionism is a big part of it. I mean, they can, Democrats can throw their black voters under the bus, and Hispanic voters, and working class Americans, and women, and everyone, and transgenders. I mean, the whole gender war of an entire generation. They were willing to throw all this into because the first week, I don't remember who it was from the Trump administration, who said there are only 2 genders. That's it. So they were willing to throw all of this into the trash bin to support Israel in its genocide. Because if the Democrats had decided to stop the genocide, they would have won the election for
Yeah.
sure. They
Yeah.
would have won. But they decided to. This tells us they meant nothing. They didn't mean seriously any of it. It was just, talking points.
Yeah.
Zionism remains, and I think that for brave Americans on the left and right, because I think that they are. I'm not a liberal, okay? I never been a white liberal, and I think that there are people on the right, on the alternative right, who are sincere. I mean, they may have different views from you, on from left wingers, but on some issues they are sincere. They are anti-war. Some of them, it's a minority, and some of them are asking questions about what is the meaning of this commitment to Israel, and the same on the left, and the same among Black Americans. I mean, I see it on my feeds. People are asking what the hell is the meaning of
It's very
this.
important to, and you're making a good point because it's very important to remember how Americans oppose war. And this has been consistent for most of my life. Like Americans opposed war, and when I was in high school during the Iraq War, they opposed war when Obama was doing it. Obama drone strikes wasn't popular. Israeli genocide is not popular. I look at the polls. The majority of evangelical Christians want a ceasefire. So, what is the conclusion that we can come to? That the United States is a deeply authoritarian, tyrannical hellhole that is occupied by Zionists, and it is everything that they told us that their enemies are. So any dissent, we're seeing people getting kidnapped on the streets. We want the end of war, and many Americans are so beaten up and pacified, they realize they're not even going to get it. So we might as well fall in the margins. Then you have people like Bernie, who is the most pathetic. The Bernie left, they realize that our government is ran by violent thugs and criminals. So since we're too cowardly to stop the criminals, we're going to negotiate with the criminals. Hey, can you get some more Medicare? And can you forgive our student loans? If you forgive our student loans, we'll allow you to commit genocide. That's the
Mhm.
position that the NATO left, the Bernie Sanders left. And that's the position
You
that me
know,
Americans beat into. But go ahead, Lon. I know you want to speak. We haven't
this this part drives me crazy. This bit gets me. Like this one really drives me nuts. I mean, if you say that something is bad, something is truly bad, like uh, molesting children, okay,
Yeah.
like slavery, like this is not a joke. Genocide is not a joke. If you mean something is seriously bad, you never negotiate with other people about it. You
Yeah.
never sit with them at the same table. You wouldn't sit in a table with someone who supports slavery to talk about municipal affairs. I mean, this is nuts.
That's what
But
I
so again, I'm pointing to the dishonesty, I mean, you cannot pretend to represent anything. I mean, they're saying the Trump, for instance, they are for the genocide. They support genocide, but they say Trump is a danger to democracy. This is how you treat a danger to democracy?
yep.
You're making a joke. I mean, the whole process is a joke. I mean, no wonder so many Americans don't vote anymore, and they don't want to like listen to any formal media or anyone of authority, because the whole thing is a circus.
Yep.
What, you have no principles. It's people who have no principles on the right and the left, and they believe in nothing, and they just pretend to argue with each other and keep the system going, but they actually believe in nothing. I mean, not a single Democrat would like actually make a scene about the genocide, or about, I don't know, police brutality, all the mass shootings, the school shootings, all those terrible things. They are always business as usual. No matter what happens tomorrow, everyone comes to work and everything is, and I think this breaks people psychologically, because this tells people that nothing is really. I mean, tomorrow. I mean, this is like the realization I think every American lives with. My own kid can be shot at school tomorrow, or on their way to school, because of rampant crime and insane gun laws, and no one will care. No one will care about, and I can get again, I can get broke because of a medical bill I can't pay, and no one will care about me. And my cousin or nephew, who was, I don't know, had some addiction problem, had a troubled childhood, and committed some stupid crimes, and he's gonna spend now 20 years in maximum security prison, and gets his life completely ruined, and no one cares about him. So this is a system that doesn't care about anyone, not farmers, not students, not veterans, not anyone. There isn't one demographic of, I mean, the theme is white supremacy, but when you translate it into, it doesn't guarantee anyone actual quality of life, or security, or a sense of belonging, or community, all the things that give us strength. It doesn't exist. So it's, I mean, we are coming to see the U.S. as this like giant propaganda entity, which is like vacant, and it's like when you lift the lid, there's nothing in. I think the people are like coming to see it, because it doesn't really defend anyone. It doesn't defend any value. Yeah, I mean, if you sold me the idea that you're Christian and you believe in Christianity and this is your guide, is this how you're serious about Christianity? I mean, leaving people homeless, going into endless wars, having this system of deceit and lies and propaganda. I mean,
Yeah,
nothing is serious. It's all a show. It's all a show, and people are. I've lived in the U.S. I'm not in the U.S. now. I'm in Mexico, and I'm loving every minute of it. But I've spent enough time in the States to get a sense of how insecure Americans are. In every sense of the word, those people are not feeling safe, not economically, not in terms of physically in the environment, not politically, psychologically. This country
yeah,
makes people feel very, very alone
yeah.
and
That's why we have
isolated.
a society that's on everyone on antidepressants, and everyone think that's normal. We
And
have
they
a
don't
society where
know.
everyone's
They
depressed,
don't get.
paying up. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's not life. This is not life. This is the American system.
Yep.
Again, when you go outside Western countries, when you go across the border into Mexico, you'll see people happy. They are much poorer. They don't have the same money. They have less plastic surgery. They drive less fancy cars, but they are not so anxious. They're happier. They
Yeah.
smile. They walk the streets, and they're carefree. They enjoy life.
Americans are lonely. Americans are lonely and depressed, and that's by design by the traitors in our government. And this is what I love talking to and hammering MAGA on their fake flag fetish patriotism because they're not patriots. They just got a flag fetish. Look at my profile. I don't got no flags on my profile. It's fucking symbolism. I don't give a fuck about none of that stuff. I care about my neighbors. I care about how we are going to strive as humanity. How we're gonna reach the next level of our evolution, which will require all of us having our knees net. You have all these people who are these fake patriots who think that patriotism is cheering on our foreign policy. So I see these people all the time. They say, "Hey Nick, why are you rooting against America? Well, Nick, why do you hate America?" I hate the war criminals. I hate the foreign policy of America. People think that you're a patriot if you cheer on the Iraq War, if you cheer on the United States committing a genocide in Gaza, if you cheer on these false wars against Russia and Ukraine, and then I will speak out against the war. They'll say, Nick, you a traitor? No, I'm the patriot in this situation. You guys are hollowing out our cities. We have millions homeless, Americans who don't have health care. And I want Americans to have health care, to be thriving. The only thing you guys are cheering for is war. These are the same people that say, I don't want my taxes to provide other people health care, even though it's more efficient. Then they want to claim that we're not the patriot as they're sending millions of dollars, billions of dollars to Israel, a country that does provide health care to their people. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is interesting to say the least. But this very infantile thinking on the part of MAGA people. I mean, they treat wars as an act of divine intervention and not political decision. If those idiots 20 years ago didn't hadn't gone into Iraq, you wouldn't have supported it. I mean, it's three idiots who decided to do it. So how does it become the center of your identity? This is what I don't get. They could have decided to be against the war, and then you'd be against the war. Because if Trump, when Trump told them he is against the war in Ukraine, they were against the war in Ukraine. Tomorrow is going to tell them I'm for the war in Ukraine because Putin is an evil person. They will say, yeah, we need to fuck up Putin. So what kind of an identity of what is this? You think whatever the system tells you to think. I mean, and, this is not patriotism. This is conformity. You do as you're being told, and they believe they represent freedom and rebellion. You're the biggest conformist. You do whatever you believe the system expects of you. And if there is and maybe for a fraction of a second, there was a rebellion was a part of American identity for a fraction of a second, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
But how do you, I mean, the idea was we are rejecting the old identities of the old world. We don't want to be in the UK. We don't want to be Britain. We don't want the king to tell us what we are. And what we want to be ourselves. We want to be free. We want to be authentic and make our own way in the world. But now they're putting the flag everywhere. This is idol worshiping. They make this new flag of this new rebellion entity a symbol of oppression, both domestically and internationally. I mean, you shouldn't sanctify symbols if you're a rebel. You should reject all symbols, each and
Well
every
said.
one. No. If you so reject religious books, reject flags, reject. They say we don't want the state to be a nanny state. We don't want the state to take care of everything. But at the same time, they will go send their children to die in the name of the same state. How does it make sense? Either the state decides everything, or you decide. But you made the state an absolute god. Now the state is your new god. You just don't want it to provide health care, but it is your god anyway.
Yeah.
At least give us health care and education and normal infrastructure. I mean, it is hard to believe how degenerate really American culture is. I mean, people are having debates about stuff the rest of the world solved a century ago. People are
Yeah.
still arguing about abortions. I mean, the country doesn't have trains. You can't take a train from San Francisco to Austin, Texas, or from New York to any big city on to Nebraska. You can take a train. I mean, this country has no public transportation. It doesn't have health care. I mean, how does it even sound remotely possible for someone to say a child born into poverty doesn't get health care? A grandmother of a family who had some, I don't know, and this is everybody. This is not like two people. This can happen to everybody. We all go through stuff in life. But you can't go through stuff in life when you know you may not have a doctor to treat you,
Yep.
or if you get fired, if you quit your job, You won't be able to you won't have to be able to afford the roof over your head. You live on the street. And this is an actual fear for a lot of Americans. I mean, this is unique. In France, no one is worried about losing their house if they quit their job. It doesn't exist. They don't fear, and in Israel as well, in almost any other country that I can think of, this
In
kind
North
of
Korea, they provide houses to their people. And
this
who's stationed in the United States?
in
What's our
Russia, yeah, in Russia, in China, there's no homelessness. In Russia, 97 or I don't know, something like
their
this,
cities are beautiful.
have home ownership.
Yep.
And the US,
Their cities are beautiful. In China, they can you can afford to live in these nice, beautiful cities. Are you free in America when you're a working class person? You can't afford to live in like 90% of the cities or the neighborhoods because you're priced out. There's some people you can't own a home. There's ghettos that form. That's not freedom in China. I saw the stat where most working class people in China can live 90% of the cities and the places in China. The average rent, and even in big cities, is like 500 to 600 bucks. The average salary in China is 49,000 in United States dollars. They have a much lower cost of living. The same with Russia. And these propagandists in America, they trick people because they will say, "Don't you know that Russia, their incomes are lower than Americans? They poorer than Americans." The Americans are like, "Oh, the Russians are poor," and they ignoring the fact that Russia they got paid maternity leave. They ignore the fact that in Russia they get health care. So if you deduct all these things that we are charged extra when we pay the capitalist tax, the private health care, that's a tax, fam. We paying an extra tax so capitalists can have the means of production in healthcare in this instance. Everything that's added to our prices in terms of extra profit, that's an extra tax. And we paying that extra tax, and Americans go to sleep because they're like, "Oh, don't you know that Russians get paid less?" That's why they're way happier though, because they get vacation time, they got health care. We have a system that has been taken over by warmongers and created something that is completely incoherent. But Alon, I know you want to chime in for free. We're having a rant section, but feel free to chime in, man.
no, I agree with you. I mean, it's not only warmongers. I mean, first of all, the whole system in the US is inflated like I don't know by how much, by 70%. I think all the numbers you hear about GDP and productivity, I think they are, I mean, inflated through the roof, through the power the dollar has and all the manipulation that goes into that, because the US isn't really as wealthy as the numbers deceive us to think. I think this is really
Interesting.
misleading, because $1,000 in Spain will get you a lot longer than they would in California or in New York or in much of the US. So and so the whole number game is not real. I mean, it's faking itself. But where does all the money go? I mean, where does all the money go? It's not just the warmongering. You have the small percent of people, mostly white men, or all of them, white men, sucking up the living life of this whole country.
Yep.
So you have to work like 3 hours or 4 hours every day of your work. Go to making Elon Musk and Bill Gates richer, not to get you, feeling safe, feeling secure, having a normal environment, having like infrastructure, having all the stuff that makes a country really develop. It's not the trucks and the guns and all the military equipment. It's the stuff that make you feel like you live in a civilized society, where it's nice to go out. It's nice to be out, and children have where to play and they feel safe. So where is all that? I mean, everything gets sucked up, and all you get in return is paranoia and propaganda. This is all you get in return. I don't know I'm asking you: is there a demographic? Is there an American demographic that thinks the country is headed in the right direction?
it's very
Because
important to remember that the MAGA crowd and the I am with her crowd, the Democrat blue MAGA crowd, they are just fractions of our society. I think it's like one third or maybe one fourth, and then you have it was like 88 million Americans who did not vote the last, and the number keep increasing. Like my family, I tell you all the time, is notoriously apolitical. You know, they don't give a fuck. Like because they and I talked to my sister about it, and she's like, someone I talked about politics maybe two times my entire life. That's how little she talked about it. The one time I did spoke to my sister about politics, she's like, I don't give a fuck. I know they all corrupt anyway. You know, she's not a political scholar. She's not a historian. The same with my cousin. My cousins told me the same thing. She said, She's like, Nick, I will listen to your podcast, but you talk about politics too much. I already know the motherfuckers too corrupt. You know, so there are people who in America who inherently knows that our politicians are corrupt. What does it say that many of them don't even try to change the system because they find it to be a task that is a waste of time? It's inevitable that we will have a system that won't change because the system is too corrupt to even try. So I might as well just focus on my grind. I'll focus on my hustle. Compare that to China, where majority of Chinese people have optimism about the future of the country and how they can influence the countries with their actions. In America, most people are checked out, and that's why it's our job as organizers to try to get them on our side and on the side of revolution, the working class. Alon, feel free to chime in if you want to add anything to that.
I mean, think about it. If you're a 40-year-old Chinese, what you have seen in your lifetime,
Wow, yeah,
this is like unheard of. This is unbelievable. Everywhere you go, it looks completely new and changed from the ground up. Everything. And you can feel that your government is actually taking care of you, taking care of people, not only you. I mean, government works. Where do you see where do you feel the presence of the government in the US? Where do you feel and see it? I mean, you see cops and you get scared because you don't want them to like brutalize you, arrest you, shoot you, whatever. But where else do you feel the presence of a government that works for the people? I don't know. And the same thing in Russia. I mean, the change in Russia, I mean, the transformation from the 90s to today is unbelievable. We're being taught to hate Putin, hate Russia, this derangement. Like hating Russia is like a basic tenet of Western identity. You have to hate Russia and love Israel. And then
yeah,
start building on that. But look, in the 90s, Russia was broken, a broken country.
yeah,
It was like a step or two from the abyss. But now it's a different place. It has beautiful cities. It has much better infrastructure. It has better wages, better services. People feel their country works for them. And in the West, we have been misled into this stupid fake existence where we think that what's important. I bring a Democrat and a Republican, and they fight, and they this is what we should be. This whole battle of ideas, of fake, stupid ideas, but
yeah,
nothing pragmatic, nothing. What's happening? What is being built? What is being built? What train lines are being built? What affordable housing is being built? What infrastructure for the population is being built? What better education system is being built? Who are the people that are being trained as the professionals of tomorrow in a better way? This is the stuff that determines how our society will look and feel. But they locked us in, and I think this is like in all Western societies, in this like madhouse where all we do and everything we think is important is to win an argument about nothing. What we should look like. Does the flag mean something or not mean something? Is this our values and this is nonsense. This is just
yeah.
hot air. What matters is what's being built, what's being done. What has been done? And it feels to me that the U.S. nothing has been done for like more than a generation.
Yeah, to that point, and this is I shock people. Like I shock like all these boomer white Americans when I praise China and Russia. Like there's like this broken brain mentality in America where you're not allowed to admire other countries. You're not allowed. Well, the only ones you're allowed to like is the people who are U.S. puppets. Like you can praise Canada because Canada is a puppet of the United States. They said Canada, we're sovereign. No, the fuck you're not. They tell you to support Israel, you fucking support Israel. That what every single Canadian prime minister has to do. That's why Justin Trudeau famously said, I am a Zionist and I am proud. Canada is not sovereign. That's why you're allowed to praise Canada. You're allowed to say Canadians are nice. No, that's a trope. That's bullshit. Because they propagandize you into thinking that your allies are nice, while Russians are evil, the Chinese, the Asians, they're evil. But I look at the society, I see 80% of the people like Vladimir Putin. I look at China, I see around 85 to 90% of people praise Xi Jinping. So the hubris
Are they all
is
stupid? Is
for
everyone
you.
stupid?
Sorry, what was that?
I mean, are they all stupid? Is everyone stupid?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
all of it? I mean, I mean, this is so obviously, blatantly stupid. I mean, if you follow the American logic, who is not dangerous and crazy and evil? I mean, China is, Russia is, Africa is a shithole country. So the Arab world is terrorist, and so who are you left with? All of humanity is crazy and dangerous.
That's
And
how
many people,
imperialism works. You have to program your populace to be afraid of everybody. But finish your thought. But I love where you're going with this because this is how they program Americans to so they can be willing to accept war. Everyone's evil except America. But go ahead, please continue.
so people need to have like basic critical thinking. How can it be that my government, my system, tells me to hate and be afraid of 80% of humanity? It can't make sense. When someone tells you, when someone comes and tells you, I had a fight with this person at this store, you say, okay, but what did they do? But if someone comes and tells you, every single person I met today was an idiot, you wouldn't believe. I mean, sounds, you can't believe something like that. It makes them suspicious. How come everybody fights with you and hates you? You must be
Yeah,
doing something wrong. I mean, I mean, this is like basic human understanding. So if your ideology or your government or your religion tells you that the majority of humanity is dangerous and cannot be trusted, you need to move to a different place because they can't be trusted. Because the basic assumption, and if you speak, I am sure that if you speak to a Chinese or a Russian or whatever, they will tell you most of humanity is so. Sometimes, mostly can be trusted, sometimes not. But this whole, and this is funny because when I left Israel, I couldn't stand the paranoia because Israel built itself as an island, a fortress. Israel is one of the only countries in the world where you cannot cross the border to another country and travel freely. You can't. I can't cross into Egypt. I mean, theoretically I could, but no one does it. You wouldn't feel comfortable. You wouldn't feel safe. You're not encouraged, and this is not acceptable. This is not something you do. But you can't cross into Lebanon. You can't cross into Syria. You can't cross into Jordan. You can't cross into Egypt. You live in this isolated bubble, and I couldn't stand it. And I heard stories of people who lived in Palestine before 1948, and they told me how the whole place was open. You could travel by car from Egypt to Damascus, no problem, and go to Jerusalem, go to Petra in Jordan. Just drive, go wherever you want.
it's
There
a
were no
tragedy what
roads.
the Zionists have done to that region. Like it's a tragedy what they have done to that region. But go ahead.
And now everything is fenced and blocked. And as an Arab Jew, especially, because I'm connected to this place, this feels so foreign to me because this wasn't part of the culture of this place. People from Damascus sent their kids to study in Jerusalem and had lands in Bethlehem and went to vacate in Cairo or Alexandria. It was like one. It had different sections, different places, but there were no borders, no divisions. People married, traveled, worked across many regions, and it was beautiful. It was peaceful. It was lovely. And now everything is fenced, blocked, divided. And Netanyahu said this was in 1915 or 16, I think. They inaugurated the new security fence on the Lebanese border. I think I don't remember what border it was. And Netanyahu stood there and said, "We have to protect ourselves from the human animals outside." This was his message. And now I said, this is a madhouse. How can people accept this kind of lunacy, this kind of language, this kind of? I mean, for years I could see and foresee and feel the genocide coming because the language and the
Yeah.
psyche was getting crazier and crazier. And I decided I can't live in this anymore, but during this genocide, as I have become exposed more and more to Western people and to Western government and how they think, I realized it's the same thing. America tells you that anywhere you step outside U.S. borders is uncivilized and dangerous. Probably even Europe is kind of exotic. It's this strange, fantastical place where people act weird and they are not like us. They may be likable, but they're like different animals. Even Europe. Is anyone safe in the US? Is anyone safe in the US? Anywhere you live, no one feels safe in the US. But this paranoia mentality that you're always in danger, that someone wants to harm you, while you bomb half the planet and you steal the of half the planet. I mean, this fakery, this people are waking up to it. I can see it and I can feel it, and I can feel that this structure, this mega structure of white Western colonialism, is about to crumble in a big thud, big explosion, a big cloud of dust because it's unsustainable. You cannot this expansionism brings you to a place where the system you created is not manageable anymore. You can control like one location, 1 million people, two locations, 5 million people. You can control 50 locations and 1.5 billion people. When they communicate, they can communicate, and they have like the learned lessons and life experiences of their forefathers, of their communities. Because black people in the US and Arabs, they have not forgotten what colonialism has done to them, what white colonialism, and the Puerto Ricans haven't forgotten, and Hawaiians haven't forgotten, and people don't forget. And there's an accumulation of this knowledge
Yeah.
and a distaste, a hate for this reality, because people don't want to be the sadists of this world. You can only train a fraction of your society to become psychopaths. You can't train 80% of people to become psychopaths unless you're Israel. Israel somehow did it. But seriously, but I don't think like a major country, a big country like the US can pull something like this off. I mean, there's people don't want to be this. Even if they don't actively resist, they don't want to be the murderers of another group of people. This is not why people, bring children to this world. Not for this.
Yeah, I think this is what this is. to the root cause of the unhappiness problem in the United States. There's all these people they reach like this midlife crisis. They realize they spend all their time slaving away in some cubicle making money for the empire that is blowing up children. And then they look at their life later at 40 and 50 years old. They're like, what the fuck did I do with my life? They realize they didn't live a life that was worthwhile. And you mentioned earlier about how people feel unsafe, and I think that's related to the United States imperialist violent system. I don't think it's a coincidence, and I would love to see studies done and experts talk more about this. But I don't think it's a coincidence that the United States, the most violent empire in modern history, produces a country with massive amount of gun violence, massive amount of mass shootings, a lot of violent incidents. It's like the sins of the past resurfacing, old habits refuse to die. And that's why you see like the genocide of the Native Americans that still have influence on the violence that Americans live with every single day. The fact that thousands and thousands of black men was lynched. Some that's still undercounted, and this stuff that white people trying to erase from history. That's the whole critical race theory thing. The Florida white boys, they don't want to hear about all the thousands of black men they raped and tortured to death. So they just want to wipe it from history so Timmy don't feel bad about their country. Then they wonder why there's so much violence and mass shootings in this country. I think that's inherently related, and that's go ahead, Alon. I think you want to chime in, but that led to the destabilization and why people feel unsafe, and there's this massive betrayal, and this is why I don't understand why people accept it. It's a betrayal by the ruling class who designed this system to be this, who designed to break the minds of the proletariat. But Alon, I think you want to chime in, so I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, I wanna one up you on the violence thing
Go ahead.
because I think this is something only an outsider can see. Seriously, violence is so entrenched in American culture. You
Yeah,
you don't even know how much. I mean, the way Americans work is violent. This is violence against you. When work takes so much of your time and your resources, this is violent. This is dehumanizing. When you the way medical treatment is provided, it is violent. The way police are conducting themselves, it is violent. You are not as likely to be shot by police anywhere on this planet. You can go mad in a Chinese street. Police most likely will not shoot you. I mean, unless you're actively killing people. If you scream and shout and kick a table at a, I don't know, police won't shoot you. In the US, it is almost so easy to get shot, and
yeah,
and when you know this, you have. I mean, we have memory. We are animals. Our consciousness contains all these things all the time, not just when we think about it. So you have this always this consciousness of terrible violence could be happening to you any moment. Some calamity of and people outside the US, unless they live in a war zone, don't have this constant existential fear. So there's so much violence. I can see even American stand-up can be violent. I can see the American the way Americans do romance and dating can be violent.
yeah,
Seriously, you always need to be kind of in an attack mode or defense mode, or you're doing you can't be your relaxed natural self. There's always you're trying to achieve something. You're trying to convey an image of yourself. You're trying. This is violent. This is not how humanity is supposed to be. You're supposed to be at ease and to express yourself with ease and not be afraid of the time of being shouted at, fired, denied medical care, whatever. And American cities can be so scary to walk. Why is that? This is violence. I mean, I'll tell you an anecdote. When I spent some time in the Bay Area, I could see how when I would walk a street, even not a lonely dark street, even a well lit like during the day street, and I would walk a street because I love walking. I can walk like hours and hours. This is how I like to think. I like to be out. And if I would walk and there happened to be a woman walking in front, like a few meters ahead of me, because it sometimes happens, she walked, maybe you walk faster, I don't know. Women would get so tense, like visibly tense. I'm like afraid of me. And I didn't see it in like any other place. I mean, women can be afraid of men like in any culture, in any place, but this kind of tensing up of you can actually feel
Meanwhile, in
almost.
China, women feel safe on walking the streets. In China, they
And
talk about it all the time.
I'm in Mexico, and I didn't have this vibe at all from
Interesting.
Mexican women. So even I mean, even the liberation of women we were promised is a lie because I don't think American women feel liberated. I mean, there's so much fear of being attacked, being so. Who lives like who is at peace in this society? Who is at peace? No one is at peace.
Yeah, it's
This is such a it's really a heartbreaking reality because it's such a huge number of people, of human beings. I mean, Americans, not Americans, it doesn't matter. These are human beings, our fellow human beings from wherever you are in the world. And this is no way to live, especially with so many resources. With so many resources. I mean, there were so many points in American history. The US could choose to become something else, to do something different, to build something different. Build an education system, build a public transport system, not a military. Stop expanding. Stop expanding. Stop looking for wars. I mean, the gruesome history of the early years or the early centuries of the colonies and the US through slavery and all that. But once that was over, they could make a choice to become something else, to become a developed, civilized, relaxed, normal country. But generation after generation after generation of American elites, because they make up the political class of this country,
yeah,
it's only them. I mean, the same families. I mean, the Clintons, the Bushes. It's unbelievable. Tracing the family lineage to the Mayflower or some bullshit. It's unbelievable.
yeah,
Pathetic. It's really it's so infantile.
yeah,
But it's almost a craze, a determination to never be normal, to always choose, always make the crazy, unreasonable choice, always, consistently.
yeah. China mocks the United States because over the last 20 years, there was focus on spending trillions of dollars in Afghanistan, and while the United States was bombing Muslim children and destabilizing the region, helping Israel do that, China was building, and they was building high-speed rail, and they had the most advanced modern infrastructure the world has ever seen. Meanwhile, I look outside, and you can look outside as well if you're American, and you realize it looks like dog shit here. The infrastructure has been completely destroyed in China. They focus on uplifting their people, and they have trials and tribulations like other countries. When you look at a lot of the United States allies, like a lot of people are rough on North Korea, but North Korea is sanctioned to death, but they still provide free housing to their people. They provide and give. They often give the proletariat surpluses of what they grow in food, so they have a free food program in Korea as well. So they're trying their best to uplift the people. In the United States, it's completely the opposite. where we have a system which is designed to extract resources and make life worse for the bottom so the wealthy can thrive. It's so commonplace, they have a term for it. They call it the boom bust cycle. So capitalists set up a system which is designed to fail. The capitalism crashed three times. Three times before I turned 30. You had the dot-com bubble, 2008, right when I was about to graduate high school, ain't that about a bitch? And then 2020, and you guys have to understand, these are not oopsie daisies. This is something I thought for a long time. Like, oh man, some mismanagement. No, it is by design. And a lot of people can make the argument that Donald Trump is trying to do that right now. People are like, why is he doing all these terrorists? Why is the ruling class trying to tank the economy? Not just Trump, but Biden with the Ukraine. Why is the West trying to tank the world economy? Because the rich benefit from it. So now think about the psychology of this. In China and Russia and socialist states, the idea is even though we may not be perfect, we may not have all the resources, but we are trying to uplift the global working class and the people that have it the worst in our society, a bottom-up strategy. While in the United States, we crashed the system on purpose. The Germany destroyed their industrial base on purpose. The West purposely destroys their infrastructure, and then people want to fearmonger over China and Russia and say, "Oh, don't you know that Xi Jinping? Don't you know that Putin abandoned their people?" And now let's get back to another thing. I'm sorry for the rant because there's a lot to cover in what we discussed. I also want to bring up this point because this go back to a point I was making earlier, where I'm not saying that China and Russia and these states I admire are perfect. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying as an American, I don't have the hubris to tell Russian and Chinese people that they are wrong to support their leader at an 80 to 90% clip. While in America, the average of the approval rating of Congress is 13%. Alon, imagine having the nerve to spend your time criticizing Russia and China while only 13% of your people like you. But despite the fact that we have a 13% approval rating, incumbents win their election at around a 99% clip. You can guess who wins an election at around a 95% accurate rate based on who raised the most money. But Alon, they want to tell us that China and Russian democracy is rigged. So we have a country full of people who hate the ruling class, but they can't do anything to get rid of them because they are overwhelmed by the capital that the ruling class have. What do you call this? This is capitalist dictatorship. Everything they accuse our other countries of being. I just had to add this in. Anything you want to add, Alon? I know we about an hour in. Let me know how you're doing on time. This is a very fascinating conversation. Anything else you want to add? I want to ask you about Trump's actions in Iran.
I want to add one point about your last beautiful rant.
Feel free.
In around the year 2020, do you remember this famous Biden clip from, I think it's 97, 8, 7, something like this, where he says, the Russians told me that if we don't be more reasonable with them, they will turn to China and like ditch.
Yeah.
He answered with some idiom from his state, something, and the crowd laughs. I mean, they make fun of the idea that Russia can partner with China to achieve something instead of going west, because we are the West, we are the gods. Everyone has to have us and have to like comply with what we want. And look what happened in the past quarter century, because the Chinese leadership and the Russian leadership and the American leadership of around the year 2000, we're all seeing the same picture. I mean, US was here economically, and China was here, and Russia was here. And what the Chinese and Russians did, they did not take all the resources they had and to develop their militaries. They decided, no, we need to offer better lives for our populations. So in a quarter century, they almost closed the gap in terms of quality of life and from the West. They're almost there. And the US has dedicated and threw away all the advantages it had a quarter century ago into military adventures. And now the US is like fucked up in terms of its infrastructure,
Yeah.
seriously, in terms of how its people feel. And it's also half depleted militarily. I mean, it can't like dominate the rest of the planet. The geopolitics have changed. So they were able to make a very accurate and moral judgment in real time in around the year 2000. They decided we are going to invest in improving the life conditions of our populations. And they invested and putting like almost recreated Russia from scratch because it was so broken and corrupt and depleted and had almost nothing working. It's almost miraculous. And China has, in one generation, went from being like third world to being first world, and in some respects, even ahead of. They have flying taxis already in China. They just launched it today, and every week now they launch the biggest supercomputer, the fastest this, the biggest that, and they have
They're
everything.
innovating so fast. Like the capitalists used to say China can't innovate. That was the quote they used to say for years. China can't innovate, bro. They're innovating like humanity ever never seen before. I can't even keep up. Like you breaking a lot of this stuff to me. I can't even keep up with Chinese innovation that coming out every week. It seems. But please finish your thought.
Yeah, so this shows us how the character of a person or a nation really dictates its destiny. Because the Chinese and the Russians at the critical juncture made the decision to open up, to do better, to invest, to grow, to develop. And the US made a decision to pursue war, imperialism, and domination. And now the US feels broken. And it feels like Russia and China and the global south is rising.
Yep. I wanna share one thing. I want to do a hard pivot because I want to make sure I cover one last thing while I still have you here. This will be the last topic we'll cover. This is why I have Trump the warmonger on because Trump he's bombing Yemen as we speak. Supported Israel as they violated their ceasefire. Now Israel is going back into Gaza. Supported Israel as they launched an offensive against Syria to create quote unquote buffer zones, which is a weird way to say you're invading and annexing land from another country. But now we have Trump that just actively threatening to bomb Iran, and Iran announced that if they are attacked by the United States, they will be forced to build a nuclear weapon. Something that the Iranian ruling class has been against for a very long time, despite what many Americans have said. But we have Trump bombing Iran, and I want to ask you about this. But what I want to play this. I found this from Hotspot. This is the neocon Trump administration. This is Donald Trump, Karine Jean-Pierre. They're all the same. Where she explains the goal that Donald Trump have in the Middle East. So I'll play this clip and I will get you to respond. This is batshit crazy. Like this, we're back at it again. This is the 12th term of Reagan, another George W. Bush. Let's listen to this and then we react.
These Houthi strikes have been incredibly successful. Last time I was at this podium, there were more than 100 successful strikes. There have now been over 200 successful strikes against the Houthis. Iran is incredibly weakened as a result of these attacks. And we have seen they've taken out Houthi leaders. They've taken out critical members who were launching strikes on naval ships and on commercial vessels. And this operation will not stop until the freedom of navigation in this region is restored, which is a critical principle. And this president stands behind our Defense Department, who's doing a tremendous job.
So instead of calling Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House and treating him like he treated Zelensky and demanding that he stop killing kids, they're now bombing Yemen and floating the idea of launching war with Iran. So if you're MAGA and you vote for Donald Trump and you support Donald Trump, when are you enlisting? When are you going to enlist your children to fight and die on behalf of Israel? Once again, and I'm warning you guys, I'm telling you guys right now, I'm going to get banned because if we go to war with Iran, I'm not warning you dumb motherfuckers. I'm not warning the troops. This is Donald Trump, once again, programming an entire generation to fight and die on behalf of Israel. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you about this, the push that Donald Trump has to go with war with Iran. How do you think it will go, and how disastrous of a decision this is?
Um, Israel has been pushing the US to go to war with Iran for 30 years, basically. This is Netanyahu's life project. This is his biggest fantasy, his biggest wish. This is what he sees as removing the last obstacle before Zionism can take over the entire Middle East, basically, and dominate it. And this sounds nice to American ears because the US wants to dominate the Middle East as well and guarantee its oil and resources, and it has only rulers that take American orders and act on them fast and completely. So I think, and my feeling is, and it has been quite consistent since October 7, I think that the US-Iran war is basically a done deal. The US is going to war with Iran very soon. Very soon. I think it is weeks, if not days. This is how serious this is. And I think that everything that we have been talking about in this program really is about the American past. The American future is the American after the Iran war, and it's going to be very different. I think that the Iran war is going to wreck whatever is left of the US as a functioning and semi-normal country. I mean, the prices of energy are going to go through the roof, and it's going to break so many people, families.
Iran is not Iraq, guys. This is not Iraq. Like Iran.
No.
But sorry, finish your thought. Please finish. Sorry.
This is not. I mean, and I've been following this for years. Iran is basically the kind of firepower in the Persian Gulf, in the Middle East, that no other country has. The US cannot match it. The US and Israel together cannot match it. They have hundreds of thousands of rockets and missiles and drones that they have been developing. And I mean,
ballistic missiles.
They sent Russia thousands of drones 3 years ago, when half the world had like almost zero drones. They were at the forefront of drones, like almost 7 years ago. They attacked Saudi Arabia, some oil installation. 7 years ago, they are ahead of the competition, and this is where they invested their military strategy. This is how they built it. And they are situated strategically to disrupt and destroy basically the transfer of oil from the Persian Gulf, from the Middle East outside. No oil will pass. And they are capable of basically destroying every American base in the Middle East. And there are like 100 of them. So American soldiers are going to die, and many of them. They can sink carriers. They can do some serious damage, and they can destroy Israel. Basically, they can destroy Israel.
Yeah.
So the implications, and this is the nail in the coffin, basically, of the American dream. This is it. There will be no recovering from this. Because this is going to unleash all the animosity that exists in the US and has been held back by a false sense of prosperity. When this gets taken away, a lot of hate is going to be unleashed, a lot of hate, and the kind of oppression the government is going to have to use. I think this is going to be terrible for the US. I think it's going to be terrible for American forces in the Middle East. It's going to be terrible for Israel. It's not going to be fun for Iran as well. It's going to destroy American allies, Qatar and United Arab Emirates. It's basically going to be a huge accelerator of the decline of the American empire. Um, Nevertheless, the US is going to do it because Israel wants it to, and the US built itself up to a place psychologically where it cannot resist it. It cannot resist it. It has um, no one mature enough or sane enough, holding enough power and sway in Washington to counter this, to tell them no, this is something we can't do. The Zionist influence and the feeling that America has of a declining empire that needs to prove that it still has its power. You know, this is like seriously like a they can't resist it. Even they know that it's going to be destructive. I think and I sense and I see they cannot resist it. And this is paradoxically, this is going to be a disaster for the US, but a blessing for the rest of the world. A
So
huge
the
blessing
United,
for the world.
yeah, the United States is on a losing streak. Couldn't defeat the Taliban in Afghanistan, but they're going to defeat Iran with a bunch of low morale soldiers who only signed up in the first place because they wanted to go to college for free. So you have Iranian fighters, resistance fighters, will be fighting an existential threat, who've been waiting for this encounter with the West forever, who witnessed the Zionist entity and their terrorists destabilize the region. They realize it's an existential threat versus Americans who have no idea why they're there. And if you resist said war, you will be called an anti-Semite. Oh, if you guys thought the Patriot Act was bad, if you guys thought how the United States cracked down on dissent during the war on terror was bad, just wait until the war with Iran, which they're preparing for. And I would love for you to speak about this, because I love the writing that you do on this, where there's this fake anti-Semitism hoax, which is used to groom people to accept the incoming authoritarianism. And we have seen Trump and the MAGA-owned Zionist, the Zionist-owned MAGA, essentially arguing against due process, essentially anyone who speaks up against Israel. Now, I can show you 1,000 receipts, but to keep it short, I'm going to show you guys this video of Satan Yahoo, Satan himself, praising Trump and praising MAGA for abandoning their free speech principles. And so this is Netanyahu praising Trump for decisive actions, cracking down on anti-Semitism. And I especially want to ask you about this because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're an Arab dissident Jew, someone who's dissident against the Zionist regime. So you have a unique perspective on this issue. So let me play this clip, and I will love to hear your perspective. And we will wrap up after this topic here.
People are demonstrating with passion. These ignorant demonstrators. Who are they demonstrating for? For these murderers, these rapists.
I'm sorry to interrupt it, but how does America tolerate this? This is Netanyahu insulting Americans. He calling Americans ignorant. He does this all the time, where he insults Americans. He called them stupid and ignorant, as if we don't know what your war criminal ass is doing. MAGA accommodating him is next level treason. So let me continue to call. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's infuriating. He's essentially calling Americans dumb and ignorant, pretending like we don't know what the hell he's doing.
With passion. These ignorant demonstrators. Who are they demonstrating for? For these murderers, these rapists, these mass killers. This is a reflection of a deep rot that has pervaded the intellectual hub of free societies.
It's crazy disrespectful
Of Israel, the Jewish people, and Western values has been propagated by a systemic alliance between the ultra-progressive left and radical Islam. It must be resolutely fought by civilized societies to safeguard their future. This is why we must all commend President Trump's decisive actions against anti-Semitism, and we must pressure other governments to do the same.
Benjamin Netanyahu praising Donald Trump for cracking down on free speech. And I saw you commentated on this. A rabbi tells the Senate. So these people are such victims. They're such victims of rabid anti-Semitism that they're the only minority group that I've ever seen that can get immediate congressional hearings, bills passed, police states established. But what are your thoughts on this anti-Semitism that's being used? Like Germany, free speech is dead, full-fledged police state. I would like to hear your thoughts on this, Alon.
Well, I could see this whole thing coming. I could see it coming. I mean, if you recall, last year, the same week that there was an assassination attempt on Trump, it was the same week that Biden was basically removed from the Democratic ticket, and it was the same week Netanyahu was visiting the White House, was visiting the US. Everything was happening around the same time. And I could see that as Israel was getting bogged down in its wars in Lebanon and Gaza, and a year later, it still hasn't defeated Hamas, it still hasn't defeated Hezbollah. This is nonsense. Hezbollah is, for their own reasons, are not fighting now, but they are not defeated. And Israel could not attack Iran alone. This would be suicide. So where could Netanyahu go? What was his field to expand and to gain territory? And I realized that the only place where he could gain territory was American consciousness. I wrote about it last year. And I said, what Netanyahu is going to do now is to drive America completely crazy. You're going to see America going completely insane. Because tragically, Zionism gained a special status in the US like 70 years ago or more. And they built on that. They always try to get more, and they have more access, more influence. It's never enough. So it grew and grew and grew. And after this genocide, when the US decided to not restrain Israel, to not stop Israel, but on the contrary, give Israel more power to influence American decision-making even more and stand behind the genocide, this was like the last layer of resistance. This was like the US has been taken over by Netanyahu. In his last visit, you know, the standing ovations. Do you remember this? Seriously, I mean, how?
That was a humiliation ritual for America. That was America's to have Netanyahu there and have our people cheer from. It was forced humiliation that Americans are supposed to go through. But go ahead, Alon.
Yeah, you should tell it to MAGA people. This is occupation. You're being occupied by a foreign power, and you're clapping. You're applauding. And this was like the complete assimilation symbiosis of Zionism in the US. Complete. It is full now. It is one complete system. It was very, very close always for a long time. But now it merged completely. And now this is why I think, I believe, and I almost know that the war with Iran is a done deal. Because Netanyahu wants it, and the US, the structure of power in the US does not have the ability to object to Netanyahu's will. They don't have it. You can see they stand and clap for like a half hour for every stupid thing he says. Um, and the use of anti-Semitism. I mean, but what? This is the first time I never listen to Netanyahu anymore. I can't stand his face and his voice. But what he said, one thing he said in this short clip that we saw, he talked about the rot that takes place in American in intellectual circles in free societies. This is the kind of stuff anti-Semites used to say about Jews in Europe a century ago. Because Jews were responsible for the intellectual rot that was dirtying and contaminating the intellectual purity and moral purity of European societies. This is the kind of stuff. This is unbelievable. I can't. I mean, it's hard for me to explain what's going on. And now this is allowed to take place. I can't wrap my head around it. It's as if every like healthy immune response to this virus has been neutralized.
Yeah,
It's like watching a horror movie when someone is injected with some deadly virus, and they don't have like the immune system to work against it.
yeah. It's
And,
wild. America
and
accept.
so for Zionism, for Netanyahu to completely take over the U.S., and this is the deal he made with MAGA. This is how I see it. What Netanyahu offered MAGA last year when he visited, this is the script I have in my head. Maybe the timeline isn't accurate, but more or less this is what I think happened. Netanyahu offered MAGA a sweet deal. He told them, if you go to war with Iran for me, I will give you the tools to crush the American left forever. You will rule the US for eternity. This is now what Trump is doing with voting rights, with deportations, with anti-Semitism. Netanyahu gave the American fascists the key because demographically, I mean, I remember 10 years ago, everyone was saying that the Republican Party is over. It's only for old people. The young demographics, the Generation Z's, they are all Democrats and liberals and left-wingers and radicals. This was like the discourse a decade ago. And now we are a decade into the future, and the Democratic Party is basically wiped out. It has no energy, no enthusiasm. It has a machine, but it has no energy. It is empty.
Yeah.
It pushed everyone out. All the ideological. This is the core of your party. Even if at the end you have a moderate, you have someone making compromises, a little bit dishonest. You need to have a core of people who believe in the cause and recruit people and go door to door and have the energy and bring new blood into the system. The Democratic Party decided to push this core out. This is like suicide.
Yeah.
So Netanyahu offered MAGA this deal.
That's a great
You
point.
go to Iran to war with Iran for us, and I will give you the heads of American left wing, and especially because Republicans can see the changing demographic in the U.S. It's going to become a minority white in a decade or 15 years. Or this is like the future for the U.S. if it has a future. But this is another question. And also, they can see the tendency among young voters to be more liberal. So they were about to lose control. What can they do to guarantee power? Netanyahu offered them the solution.
Yeah.
You go with anti-Semitism. This you could never imagine in your lifetime. I mean, the stuff that's been normalized. Could you imagine Harvard being destroyed by the U.S. government the way we're seeing now? 10 years
Crazy.
ago, people would march like a million Democrats would march like in an instant. If anyone attempted something like this, if George Bush tried to occupy Columbia or Harvard or any of those elite institutions in the early 2000s, the way Trump is doing now, millions would have mobilized. Now they do it like with ease. It's not even an effort. And what gave them this option, this power is Netanyahu. He told them, we make a pact, and this is how you gain control of the US forever. This will allow you to finish immigration, to finish any identification with Palestine, which is like the biggest motivation for left wingers now. Palestine is the big cause. I'm going to allow you to crush it. I'm going to allow you to crush free speech. I'm going to allow you to take over universities. I'm going to allow you to take over municipalities. Because in every city in the US, people are going to be dropped from races because they are anti-Semites. So Republicans are going to gain territory, which was unimaginable a few years ago. So this is what I think happened last year. And this is one of the reasons we have this complete union between Zionism and the US. And by the way, I think that do you remember last year when there were the big demonstrations in Colombia? And there was talk of a billionaire WhatsApp group. And they were all Jewish. They were all Jewish billionaires. And I think that the heavy hitters in the Democratic Party, the big donors, the big players, are part of this plan, are part of this scheme. They gave away the election to help Netanyahu and to help the MAGA movement. They cooperated and cooperated. They gave away the election. This is why they put up this idiot, Kamala Harris. This is why they stayed with Biden. They demanded Biden for so long. I mean, they acted in such a weird and inexplicable way. I mean, they acted like what they wanted to lose. And do you remember, like a week or two before the election, Clinton coming out and talking about if Arab voters don't like, he said it in Michigan, or about voters in Michigan, if they don't like what we're doing, they sympathize with Hamas, and Zionism is a done deal. You can't demonstrate against it. He said some really nasty stuff, as if to make sure that Arab voters don't vote for the Democratic Party. You can see some hints that we're actually trying to lose. This is my
Democrats was running it was an experiment in a way. They wanted to see if they can create a mandate for genocide for the Democratic Party, which is why, despite everything, I still think it's great that they lost. Because can you imagine if the horrific consequences of Kamala Harris? And she said she wasn't going to change the policy. She has said that many times before. She had her APEC handler husband go on cable shows and said that she's going to continue to support Israel. So to your point, I think it's a great point. The Democratic Party was running an experiment on if they can run openly in support of genocide against the Palestinian people, and it's a win-win. Because if they lose, that means Netanyahu has his preferred victory. Because I think your theory of Democrats throwing it for Netanyahu is legit. So it's a win-win. Either that happens, or the Democratic voters give them a mandate to support Israel forever. Because can you imagine the United States position on Israel if Kamala Harris is allowed to say, hey, man, I said I was going to govern the same like Joe Biden, and the American people said that they're okay with it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the consequences of that? So things feel screwed either way. That's the point I'm making. And please finish your point, Alon. Great point you're making.
And there's one added perspective to it, which is really important. The one thing MAGA and Trump could give Netanyahu that the Democrats couldn't because Democrats supported genocide. What they couldn't do is sell a war with Iran.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's a
the
great point.
Republicans can pull it off. The MAGA crowd will buy it. And the
Yeah.
Democrats will toe the line and follow through. They will vote yes as a second, as like as helping, as a help for the as coming together with the Republicans. But they could not be the initiating power for this. This
I
is why
agree.
Netanyahu wanted Trump in power. Trump can sell a war with Iran. Americans don't want it, but the hardline right wingers will buy it, and the democratic machine will stand by them. So this
Yeah.
is for Netanyahu also a big achievement, and I think this is why. And you could see in this election cycle, you could see all kinds of billionaires who were traditionally had been like democratic, coming out openly and saying we are going to support Trump. We are going to support Trump. It's not just Elon Musk. There are other figures, other billionaires who said we are going to support Trump, and some of them said because of anti-Semitism, because of the Republicans do support Israel, whereas the Democrats are kind of neither here nor there. So it gave me there were a series of clues as to what was going on, and I think this is what went down.
Yeah.
And
I agree 100%.
history will tell us, you know.
Yeah. Make sure you guys check out Alon's channel. I think you said with the uh, Mizrahi perspective, I believe it was. Make sure you
Yes.
plug your channel. I follow you on Twitter. I think this is the second time we had you on. I'm sorry we went so long, but there's so many things we could discuss. It was very thought-provoking conversation. So thank you for joining us. Where can they find you? Any last words? Anything else you want to shout out? Make sure you guys follow Alon on Twitter. He has great tweets, man. I love the content you put out there. So thank you for joining us on RBN again, man.
Thank you. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I have my Substack, and people are welcome to my Substack as well. Alon Mizrahi.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us today. We are back once again for another season of Nick at Noon. We have Patrick Henningsen join us tomorrow as well. So we have another banger. My brother Nico House will join us on Friday. So after that break, we're fully back in production. It's great to be back and great to open with Alon. Appreciate your time. Make sure you guys support us on Patreon if you enjoy these streams. Make sure you guys hit the bell so you get a notification for our live stream tomorrow. Because you know the algorithm usually don't send notifications out there. So make sure you guys like and all that stuff. I appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of your day. Peace out, y'all.
Thank you.